Okay, everybody. So, before hell blows over in the entirety of the comments section, there was a video I uploaded on the 12th named PAX Top 10 Worst Omni Units. And in that, I said units like Surge, units like Cotton, units like Taser. Who else is in there? I picked a few other controversial units in there, but practically what wound up happening, I have to actually open up the picture folder that I have everything in, but what wound up happening is everybody thought that it was like some super controversial thing. Now, obviously, there's some units in there that are just pretty much bad. There's Malakat, there's let me see, there's obviously Surge, there's Cotton, there's Kalon, which kind of got, nobody really noticed Kalon that much, so I'm actually kind of happy that nobody really did notice Kalon in there, because, again, I kind of wanted to see if anybody was actually going to, sit the whole way through. And also I said Elza, Iori, let me see, Alakat. Pretty much, I think we can all agree that Vargas is pretty much kind of bottom of the barrel. Serge's bottom of the barrel, Taser's bottom of the barrel, Kalon's bottom, Iori's bottom, Elza's bottom, Felis's bottom. Well, not bottom really. Elza and Felis aren't really bottom, but they're just units outclass them. But a comment that was put on this video said like, oh, maybe I need to probably rework this video to make it so that I have like utility and support units, and we'll combine both utility and support units as one subclass as when I'm making this video. But that's not this video. This is literally just to kind of quell everything that happened there. Now, obviously, there's this guy by the name of Jacobus Ringo who's like, oh, you don't know how to use the UI thing. Well, I put him on the list because, again, Resus outclasses him, Selfon outclasses him, Savi outclasses him, Camilla outclasses him, even Gaston outclasses him by a little bit more than a long shot. Now, maybe this means I probably need to go back and do some damage testing, or somebody needs to go back and watch Ushi's video, because, honestly, I don't think Leo's that great, because he has a very low hit count. His parameters aren't really the best. So I actually have to look this up like right now, because again, everybody's like, oh, you're big, and I'm gonna actually rewatch the video as we speak, so y'all can see that this is actually real. So as we're doing this, I'm watching the fucking video, so I'm just gonna skip through some parts and see where he says it's good and where he says he's bad. So when it loads, we're gonna skip pretty much past the entirety of the point where he mentions all the stuff. I need to see. Yeah, his damage is 16 out of 20, but he doesn't have like triple attack or double attack, so it doesn't make him very optimal. His looter skill obviously is 18 out of 20, but again, because he's very good mitigation effect, he's pretty much more of a survivor unit than like Resus, which is just kind of a damage unit, and like Selfon, it's just like strictly for damage dealing. Obviously, he says that the BB and SBB are 17 out of 20 on his regard, so obviously it doesn't seem like he, is completely down at the bottom, but he doesn't have the AoE normal attack buff that he mentions, and obviously you have to get it from the UBB. Now, the UBB, obviously that gauge is pretty difficult if you don't have units like Xion, Gaultier, Beatrix, or any other unit that can fill OD gauge at turn's end, or directly, like Ezra. She can just do that over time on the UBB instead of it being instant now. But like Xion and Gaultier and Fina, and a bunch of these other units have to do that. So he has a decent set of buffs, but he has single target attacks. So he doesn't have AoE on his. He doesn't have AoE at all unless it's on his UBB. Obviously, it's pretty good for normal attacking, but you need to have something that gives him more attack. Well, not just more attack, but you need stuff that gives more attack. And it's bad that he only has 3 normal hits, not 4 like Savia and Selphon, like I mentioned before. That Savia and Raysus outclass him because of the hit count that he does. Based on that, I put him there because it wasn't that bad, but it could have been better. So there's an extra skill, like I said, 16 out of 20. Ushi says a 16 out of 20. Obviously, it's 2 hits normal attack passive, which is decent on its own regard, but it would be more if we saw an extra something backing that up, like an extra hit, like on his SP option, like an extra passive hit, like giving him 3, making him slightly better than Raysus. Like if he had that, I would have called him better than Raysus, and he would not have been on this list. So obviously there's that. Obviously he ranks him pretty good on this list. Now obviously he's kind of obviously he's more well equipped. Okay, I'm gonna say he's more well equipped for these situations than I, because obviously if you watch Ushi's video, he praises Leo White Fang, all except for his BB and SBB that have single target attacks and that they're very relatively low hit. So obviously he is a 13 out of 20 for the arena, and his final score, well, his cons are, what is that? Single target BB SBB, limited use. It gives him limited use. 3 normal hits on his UBB, which kind of doesn't really do much. And above all else, he's a fucking limited unit. That's the thing I have to say, is that he is limited unit. He is a limited unit. And like I mentioned in the stream before this and videos before this, we don't know if all limited units are going to become one big pool included with Omni units for any other summon gates. We don't know that. So if he does become like that, he could be better. He could be more used, and I'll start, building teams around Leo White Fang rather than Raysus. But if you remember back in my Ezra strategy, there was no Leo White Fang. I had to use Raysus. I had to use Savia. I had to use Camilla. So that's why I put him so low on the list, or moderately low on the list. Now, obviously, you have to understand, if he's at like 8 or 9 on the list, that doesn't mean he's bad. That means he's good, but he just doesn't have a lot of use. If he's at number 1, then there's a problem. Okay, Vargas, as we all pretty much know, doesn't really have the best leader skill. He doesn't really have the best set of buffs. Serge doesn't have the best set of buffs. Kalon kind of got outclassed, and Il-Malakat, let's be honest, everybody forgot about Il-Malakat. Obviously, there's not much really else to say about that, except for the fact that we're having a fucking meltdown, and I kind of need to, make a small statement on that, because obviously, like, everybody's brain just kind of imploded on itself when they saw that, I didn't like Leo White Fang as much. Now I have to actually probably start doing this more and more often now, more often than not, is putting the units in the specific order in the video, because I think, like I mentioned before, where I was going through the video and I stated each unit one by one by one. Now I'm actually going to watch my video, and I'm going to compare where I put my, so let me think. So Cotton is at number 10, Taser's at number 9. Well, who else was there? Serge is at number, what is it? Hang on. Yeah. And then the next up was Iori. So 10, 9, 8, 7. So yeah, 7 was Iori. Seriously, if this were just a load, it'd be a lot easier to kind of mitigate a lot of this stuff. But again, a lot of people's brains already just kind of imploded on themselves. And yeah, I put him on number 6. So that means he's almost dead in the center. It doesn't mean he's bad. It doesn't mean he's good. But like I'm saying, let me hear myself. Yeah, like I mentioned on, like I mentioned with Raysus, is that he does tons of damage. He does tons of damage paired with another Ezra, paired with an Arthur and paired with himself or paired with a Neil, he does a ton of damage. But I have not been able to replicate that with Leo Whitefang using the same equipment and using the same setups as Raysus. So and like I mentioned before, just using Raysus on his and like something on him, he has a very moderate amount of damage. Like he does about 4 to 5, maybe like 4 to 5, 4 to 5, 4 to 3, well 3 to 5 or something like that. Somewhere in that range. So again, I didn't really put a lot of negative stuff. Yeah, I didn't put a lot of negative stuff in with. Yeah, Jacobus Ringo, you missed it. You missed it. Okay, you completely missed the point. So if I'm literally watching my own video right now. See, this is a fucking thing. I'm watching it right now. Again, like I mentioned, he doesn't follow that Savia standard of normal hit nuking. And I say, but if you set him up correctly, I say this, he does have more attack parameter raise on his SP options, 150,000 compared to Raysus's 130,000. And I believe I mentioned if you set him up and I say if you set him up correctly, you can do more damage than Raysus. Yeah, so I said, and I kind of quote this, very, very loose, long explanation here, but set Leo up correctly, he does a ton of damage. Set Raysus up incorrectly, he does a less number of damage. You set up Leo incorrectly, he does less damage. You set up Raysus correctly, he does more damage. So between the two, I'd pick Raysus because he has, again, elemental weakness, immunity. He has a bunch of stuff. He has 50% boost to all parameters, which I don't think Leo really has. He has negates elemental damage for 1 turn. Spark critical, boosts OD gauge for it at turn's end, negates all status ailments. He has other things that Leo Whitefang really can't do too well. Well, not really do too well, but just do in a reasonable fashion. So what I'm really saying at the end of this is that Leo Whitefang, again, he's really good. He's good. But between the new normal attack nukers, I'm just saying, out of those, I would pick Raysus. Now, obviously, they pretty much have the same UBB effect with 3 hits. But the reason I say that, again, Raysus is a bit better is that he has damage taken. Let me see if I'm not going to, jinx myself here. Okay, so obviously Leo has slightly more damage on his normal hits, but Raysus also has 20% less. Raysus has 20% less damage from the extra hits, while also filling 50 BC and restoring 100% of damage when hit. So that's what I want to see, and he has more. Yeah, I don't think he has much more of an attack boost. Yeah, so Leo beats him out in attack boosting, but like I said before, there's just more that Raysus can do that Leo really can't do. And this is not to completely devalidate a lot of the things that I literally said in my own video that you were trying to apparently call me out on, but I directly said that you set up correctly, you're going to be doing tons of damage. And I never said that I didn't set up. I never said that I didn't have a Leo, because if you saw the past stream, you know that I have a Leo Whitefang, and I've got Baiken because I got Leo and Baiken in 10 summons. I got them both in 10 summons, so that's incredible luck for me. And I did Baiken stuff because I maxed her out first because she was, again, the better of the two in the batch. Like I mentioned in that video, I believe, where I said when Leo and Baiken came out, I didn't really care about Leo, but I wanted to get Baiken because she did more damage. And obviously, I know that's going to cause some other people's brains to implode, saying that Baiken isn't that powerful, she's not great, and she's gonna be garbage. I already can see that coming, so it doesn't really affect what really happens, but it just really does depend on who's the unit that we're trying to. It really does depend on who's the unit we're trying to talk about here. Now, yeah. So again, I literally debunked my own stuff in my own video. So, it doesn't really make that much sense to see why you'd be commenting about you saying, oh, you use him effectively, despite the fact that I literally said you can do damage with Leo, but I said Reysus is better, but that's not really the entirety of this whole conversation right now, because then after that, people started. Now, this is what I don't want to see, is people posting their own top 10 lists in my comments. Great that you have that idea, like you have your top 10 list, but this is what I'm talking about by causing a fucking meltdown in the comments. Is somebody said, like, oh, my top 10 worst units are Athena, Leo, Phelan, Taser, Wanahan, Ilm, Alakat, whoever, Rintegi or Rimalen, whatever the fuck. You just put the English names, please. If you have a unit on there, put the fucking English names on there. Vargas, Rayla, and Ragsham. I get why you'd put Rayla and Ragsham on there because not really that many people use them. But you have to remember that I don't put a lot of units on there because there's so many units on this, and I try to stay within a certain parameter. So obviously, yeah, I probably could have put Rayla instead of Leo Whitefang, or probably instead of like Elza or Felis. Yeah, I could have done that, but you have to keep in mind, like I mentioned, what I literally posted in a comment, like as this whole fucking, like I mentioned before, like as this whole fucking nuclear meltdown is happening, I put down like, I am obviously no professional. I'm not Ushi, I'm not Milko. I don't do this stuff. I'm not sitting there constantly doing this like mobile game crap. Like in the stream just recently, I started doing Mario World because I'm fucking stupid and I can't figure out how to jump over a pit or over a block. So you can tell that obviously I have no idea what units are good, what's bad, what's in the meta, what's not in the meta. Obviously I don't fucking know. I just see like if a unit is good, like if I think a unit is good, I summon. Like at the time, like many people didn't think Mei was really good until I said like, okay, she's relatively decent, and I'm like, oh, she has double cast. She's kind of like Arthur in a sense, where she has double cast on SBB, and you can make that pretty good. And people were like, oh my god, she's so good. And then Ushi, I think, said she was like the water Xian, so I started using that. And again, not many people really batted an eye. So maybe if I start like trying to think like Ushi in a sense, where I try to make up analogies between units, then maybe. So maybe saying like Leo is exactly like Reysus, only limited edition and slightly more powerful, would make this whole thing kind of blow over. But again, I probably assume a guy with no real profile picture, just like like the first initial. I pretty much expect this keyboard warrior won't put the fucking torch and pitchfork down. So this obviously meant to kind of quell a lot of like the explosions that are happening in this tiny little bubble. So it's not that this is bad. It's not that this is being made off of another issue. It's just that this is being made on the reply of a fucking meltdown that's happening, obviously, on another opinionated piece. Now, obviously, people go out and watch Ushi and Milko's stuff, and they put borderline units on like top 10 lists, and everybody praises them. But if I put a borderline unit on one of my lists, like all of a sudden, like a fucking meltdown starts in the comments. It's like, okay, if this stuff's going to start being more biased towards obviously more smaller people, then you got to start being biased towards the bigger people. So if there's like a unit on there that you don't like, that like a big person says, oh yeah, this person's really good, or this unit's really great, then like if you don't like that unit, then you've got to go out there and say like, no, this unit sucks. So it shouldn't just be me that gets like kind of shit for taking care of a lot of this stuff. So that's all I've got to say. Now this obviously was being made off of that whole fact, like the whole that whole thing, that whole fucking meltdown that began. That's what kind of started this video. Now I'm gonna kind of end on a better note, and that I thank you all for subscribing. Thank you all for being at least semi-active, and obviously again I kind of do thank what's his nuts, the fucking, I forgot his name. It's kind of stupid because I actually just fucking had this thing open. I had the fucking comment thing open, but whoever the fuck you are, who is like whining, crying, and complaining about all this stuff, I don't care. But you know, thank you anyways for supporting the channel. Obviously, thank you for pretty much you know, helping all these people out. Thank you for enlightening these people, and I guess thank you for saying a point that I've pretty much said like all my fucking YouTube careers, that I'm just kind of an idiot with a camera, and I don't know what's popping in the fucking meta and Brave Frontier, what's not. So obviously when I don't know like what all your fucking terms mean, it doesn't mean like, I don't know how to really put this, because the way you put your comments made them sound 12 times more cryptic than they needed to be. And obviously you're gonna be sitting in your fucking dark basement going, oh yeah, it's a good thing, but no, it's not, because how the fuck are we supposed to figure this out? Like how the fuck are we supposed to come to a decent line and say like, okay, these are good, these are bad. But if you want to make it cryptic, then by all means go ahead, blow up more comment sections. You'll just get banned. I don't really care. You'll just get like blocked from literally seeing anything else I ever do in my entire career. So that being said, I'm just gonna stop for now, guys. That being said, Pack here. I hope you all have a really great day. Be sure to comment, like, and subscribe. Yeah, that's all I've got to say about this whole thing. I'm not gonna really say any more or any less than that, but holy hell, this has been crazy. So actually, yeah, I really do thank you all for pretty much blowing up that video to kind of a decent proportion, giving a lot of controversy to it with the units I put on the list. So with that being said, thank you all for watching. Sorry that this is like the third or fourth video I put up today. Jesus fuck. So yeah, I'm gonna stop for now. Hope you have a good day.